YouTube, and welcome one and all to Game Exchange, where we talk about the video games we all love and the mysteries of the culture that not only surround them, but the entire gaming subculture between the US and Japan. In time, I wish to branch off to other countries and cultures, but Japan is my specialty, and that's where I want to focus. So, you guys ready to have your minds blown? Let's begin with Zelda. Believe it or not, there's a bit of Japanese culture behind a few things in this game. Now, we all know that Shigeru Miyamoto got his inspiration for the game from exploring the woods at his home. But would you believe that something so central to the game, the Triforce, actually comes from one of the most powerful families in ancient Japan? Yes, this is the emblem for the Hojo clan. The Hojo clan were the family that held power over Japan as the family of the first shogunate based in Kamakura. Before they came to power, they were fierce enemies of the Taira clan, who battled the Hojo clan over control of the entire country. Their power and influence held from 1138 to 1333. At that time, one of the Hojo's vassals, Ashikaga Takauji, betrayed them to their enemies as Kamakura was invaded by Mita Yoshisada. Almost the entire clan, nearly 900 people, took their lives at their family temple to spare themselves the humiliating defeat. Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka got the idea to replicate the icon into Zelda, and there you go. If you're into Inuyasha, you may remember a character named Hojo Akitoki, who in story represented one of the Hojo. Also, if you're into Total War Shogun 1 and or 2, the Hojo clan was a playable faction. The Hojo family crest was called the Mitsu Uroko, or the Three Dragon Scales, meaning the protection of the Emperor. Much like the Triforce was a symbol that protected Hyrule, the Mitsu Uroko was a symbol that protected the Hojo clan. In theory, of course. Remember last time, I covered this sort of topic when I talked about Whomps and how their Japanese name, Batan, is an onomatopoeia for the sound they make when they crash. Well, there's actually far more that I omitted about this particular character. Whomps were based off the Japanese folklore monster known as Nurikabe. Now, Nurikabe are nasty little spirits. At night, they take the form of a wall and either trap or misdirect unfortunate travelers. Nurikabe also have the ability to expand themselves as a wall indefinitely, so simply walking around it doesn't work. The only way to make it vanish is to knock on the lower part of the wall, much like how Mario has to knock Whomps on the back to make them vanish. If you've ever played a humble little game called Monster Rancher, you probably understand this folklore spirit even more. But you know him by the name of Mono. In Monster Rancher, Monos were a somewhat rare monster that appeared in nearly every Monster Rancher game. They had the ability to alter their form and give themselves different surfaces and dimensions, much like their Nurikabe cousins. Also like their Nurikabe cousins, Monos are incredibly menacing looking and often create a dark or evil monster when combined with another. You thought the floor or grass in Ultima was dangerous? That's nothing compared to the black-hearted nature of these dark and sinister walls. Who knows? Perhaps even the ceiling is even more malevolent and evil than the... Oh my gosh, we're too late! Run! Run! Whew. Okay, crisis averted. Next, let's talk about a little bit about the big bad blue penguin himself, King Dedede. At first glance, you're probably wondering what in the world does Dedede have to do with Japan? Well, it's a little obscure, but there are a few cool things that you can learn. First of all, in Smash Bros. Brawl, King Dedede appears to be dressed in robe layers, as opposed to being pretty much naked except this little crisscross design thingy across his belly. This new look to Dedede actually has some history dating back to older Japan and the significance of the layered kimono. In old Japan, men's kimono did not involve just one robe. There was an underrobe called the nagajuban and a sort of large sleeve overcoat called the haori, much like what King Dedede has. In fact, Dedede's belly pattern looks a lot like a traditional wide obi. Typically, men's kimonos tend to be more navy, black, or gray, but sumo wrestlers sometimes wear very bright colors such as fuchsia. King Dedede isn't known for being very fit, and in fact, he's pretty tubby. Could it be possible that Dedede was actually modeled after sumo wrestlers? The last thing I want to talk about King Dedede is his hammer. Normally, he wields his trademark Star Mallet hammer. However, in the minigame Samurai Kirby, he uses a very special kind of hammer. The grip of the hammer is oddly built further back into the hammer head. This is a very special hammer used to pound mochi, or a sort of sticky, swishy rice paste that makes the best damn snacks you've ever tasted! I suppose that makes this image all the more appropriate. One last thing I want to cover before the end of this episode is something many of you have seen many times, but perhaps were too rushed to see it. Japan is in Super Mario 3. No, I don't mean language or culture, I mean Japan itself is in Super Mario 3. In World 3, you need to take a warp pipe right after the last stage before you get to the castle and battle on the airship. Now most of us were in a rush to get to that castle and finish the level, but I kid you not, the island the castle is on and the surrounding islands are the 4 Japanese islands of Hokkaido, Honshu, Kyushu, and Shikoku. How cool is that? Man, Miyamoto was craftier than I thought. Someday, I'd like to return again to this cultural dig, but for now, I challenge you, the viewer. If these sort of things have piqued your interest, go out yourself and discover the cultural influences of the games that you love. Japan, though it has quite a bit of influence in video games, is only one country in this great big world of ours that has influenced and molded video games through its culture. I encourage you to take something about your favorite video game or games and do just a little bit of digging into the cultural origins of the things you love most in those games. I promise you, you will not be disappointed in your finds. I wasn't. In fact, I was so thrilled and excited, I started this show. Anywho, thanks for watching everyone. I hope you'll join me next time. But for now, this is Gaijin Goomba signing out. Like my show? If you want to keep up to date with what's going on Game Exchange, as well as new videos and content coming out, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and of course, thepunkeffect.com.